Evening everyone. Those of you who have been on the forum, Facebook and other places on the web may have noticed that I've recently acquired what is the earliest model in the collection, or pile, if you like, and that's a 1948 Mamod SE2. Come with, well, I presume the original burner, or one of the correct era. That's this one here, 3-wick burner, but no wicks, and that's where we sort of got the inclination, if you like, to have a bit of a play with the burners. And to be honest, as far as I can recall, this is the first time I've used a wick type burner in anything, except for my Astor Titfield Thunderbolt. And I've never had to do anything to those other than just light them, so no issues with that one. But I've never had to replace any, so I went on the forum to get some advice on the height of the wicks above the tubes, and got some replies from a couple of folks. Thank you very much. So what I did, some time back, somebody gave me the idea to try an older type burner in one of the latest Mamod stationary engines, because like many of us probably, we don't like the solid fuel. It doesn't last that long, can be messy, relatively expensive, and it smells a little bit, especially the older type, the square original type. I find that one stunk quite a bit more than the new round ones. Anyway, I never did use the Repro which I got, which is this one. I've never used it. That's as it come. I forget where from on the web. But anyway, that Repro, depending where I got it from, it's either 16 or 22 quid plus a couple of quid post, I suppose. It did come with spare wick material, which I've utilised in this one. And as we'll see a bit later on, I think I got it about right first time with that one. Again, in the way of replacing, or well, not replace, but putting to one side the solid fuel burners in SP2s this time, I came across these brass burners. These are both the same. I bought two at the same time, and it's mainly for the SP2, although it's a bit short, but probably I might be able to do something like the SP5. It is a bit short for that, but these I think were £12.95, but I can't find these on the web anywhere, so whether they've stopped doing them altogether, I don't know. That's a standard burner tray. It's just got the aluminium foiling to protect it, keep the main tray clean. And this one is a Reproduction MM1 that I bought, MM1 burner that I bought for a chap in the Telford and Ironbridge Mechano Society. I've serviced his engine and he hadn't got the right burner, so I sourced the correct one, or a Repro, and that's really the only downside. Well, there's a couple of slight negatives with a couple of the burners, but the real problem I've had has been with this one. So in a way, this little video is a bit incomplete because I've run out of wick material to continue the testing with that MM1 Repro, the Mamod Minor 1 Repro, 1-wick burner. That one was £14.49, again plus a couple of quid post, I suppose. And as you can probably see, that was brand spanking new condition before I started testing. But we'll come on to that a little bit later on, and then I'll do an update. Now, safety wise, folks, I suppose I better cover this. Any of this information, as indeed any of the videos I suppose, take it as you find it and do with it what you will, but it's all at your own choice. Don't blame me. This is my experiences with these specific burners here on this day. We are changing from the original spec, certainly with the SP2s, not with the SE2 from 1948, apart from the fact this material is different. I think that's some sort of fiberglass type material. These are vaporising METH'S burners, which have the benefit of just about fitting inside the SP2 firebox opening. But as I say, what I'm doing today with the METH'S burners, at least in part, is off spec from the models they're intended to be used for some of them, not all of them. So you do it at your own risk. So be careful out there, folks. Like anything, if you use them correctly, there ain't no problems, but just be careful. Right, folks, a little bit of well, say more detailed information. There ain't a fact lot to say really. Basic test of all the burners indoors, and I'm guessing it around 18 degrees, 20 degrees in the workshop, kitchen. All the METH'S burners have been tested with the same METH'S from the same bottle, with the same capacities for each test. That's not for each burner, but for each equivalent burner. For example, so these two 3-wick burners had the same amount in, as indeed these did, and I've got nothing really to compare the little MM1 to at the moment. The only Repro SP1 I've got is like a gone out candle as well. Seems to be a theme with the MM1s and SP1 burners, at least it's me. It is with me. So what we've got here, that's the Repro one, and as you can see, it's got a fairly small tank. That holds 20 millilitres. That's to the bottom of the threads, if you like. I'll just show you there. I hope you can see. Yeah, I'll probably just see that. That's just to the bottom of the threads, or perhaps a little bit below that, leaving room for the cap, which has got the breathing, of course. Make sure that's unblocked, otherwise you won't get very far. This one, which is either the original or one from the period, from the SC2 1948, bigger tank. Not too bad. It looks like it's been repainted by the looks of it. Yes, it looks repainted. But that's tin. There, it looks like tin anyway. The rest is brass. So that holds 34 millilitres full, but of course we did the same test with the other one, 20 millilitres. We did a couple of tests with that one. We did a test against the Repro and a test just on length of burn with it full. The Repro, you can't really tell. I don't suppose you can really tell. Let's see if we can see it. It is brass throughout. The whole thing's brass. I don't know, you can see inside the shine, perhaps a little bit, but that's brass throughout. You can sort of make it out at the edges of the paint where it's a bit thin, quite a sharp edge that. Oh, there we are. There you can see the paint's worn off, and you should be able to see the brass there. Paint's a bit thick and a bit blobby in places, but the paint's pretty decent and stayed intact. These burners, these brass, solid brass, and I presume, looking at it, milled out, vaporising burner. As I said earlier, they fit just inside the opening of an SP2 firebox. The original Mamod vaporising burners won't fit, they're just slightly too tall for the SP2s, which is a shame. But these are not bad. I think they were $12.95 each. Might have been a little bit more than that. Might have been, I can't find them at all on the web. In short, they were slow to start and picked up fairly good actually in the end, but it took some minutes for them to pick up. A bit more detail later on. Standard Mamod burner with 2 solid fuel tablets to compare against one of these brass ones. Of course, what I seem to have found out that that one is probably 1 to 1. That's 1 burner to 1 boiler, and that's probably 2. Having said that, these do run a bit too long, and I can't remember the exact wording, which is why I wanted to find them on the net. It wasn't really a direct or an exact, how can I put it, replacement for the solid fuel. It was one that was, shall we say, suggested could be used. Hence the testing, I suppose, at least for those. Now the MM1 Repro, as you can see, first of all, at least I think you can see, that was quite shiny and pretty much in as new condition, although it's a Repro. As you can see, the paint's all dull. Most of that happened the first time METH'S, unlit METH'S as well, touched the paint, and it was dull, and that paint's not going to last very long at all. The reason why it's spilt, because it's got a very small opening, which is difficult with these hoses off the syringes. As you can see, it fills quite a lot of the gap in the opening there, to get your METH'S in and let the air out. The original WICK material was like, well, I think it was sort of cotton, I suppose, of some description. Not sure what it was. Certainly softer than this sort of fiberglass type stuff. It was rammed in quite hard, and I think that was part of the problem to start with. But I couldn't complete the test yet on this one because I've run out of the material, unfortunately. What I did do to try and get the METH'S in, although it's a slow process, but get it in without spillage, or not much spillage, I got a standard Mamod funnel, put it in there, and then I got the straw off a WD-40 aerosol and put that in the hole through the funnel into the tank. Then I fill up the METH'S, say fill up, it's only 15 millilitres in that. Fill up some METH'S into the funnel, and then the air can breathe out through the little tube in the middle of the funnel. And I've got it somewhere here. There we are. Hiding over the back here. So, standard funnel, as you can see. Nothing special with that at all. This seal's a pain in the backside, doesn't stay on. While we're talking seals, I did put a new one on the original SE2 one, but I put an O-ring on because that's all I got, and of course it stays on nicely. That's more of a fibre type, but it keeps falling off. I picked it up now in the time. So anyway, funnel in the hole in the burner, and then that's quite a loose fit inside the funnel, and just fill it up. You may have to lift it up and see, so you will get a little bit of a drip, but it's better than trying to get it in with that hose on the syringe. I did have a smaller syringe with a very small nozzle on it, but I've since put one of the tubes I showed you, I put one of them on it, and I can't get it off. So that's about the size of it, of the basic details. Of course there ain't a lot to say about the burners really, but better to try and see how they perform, or not, as the case may be, before putting them anywhere near any engines. This is the Repro one, 3-wick one, as you can see. As it said at the packet really, and in fact it hadn't been used at all. This was the first time it was used, and went quite well, as you'll see. Probably a bit too well actually. Might want a little bit of a trim, or a bit slightly tighter packing. I'm still learning on this packing the WICK material, but it holds 20mm full, and the test, as indeed all of them really, was taken, or the time test if you like, from the time that all 3 wicks were alight until they was totally out. Of course, perhaps couple of minutes, 2 or 3 minutes maybe, but maybe a bit more. Towards the end of the burn, the flames are pretty useless for heating the boilers, but at least it's a standard sort of test from start to finish for all the burners. I suppose that's only relevant when I'm comparing a like for like, or nearly like for like. There's no messing with the wicks at all. Filled it up, lit it, let it go, set the stopwatch, and it was a good flame, as you'll see shortly in the photo, but perhaps a bit too high, and certainly a bit later on in the burn it was a bit uneven burn. I dare say it would be plenty of heat off it, but perhaps could do with toning down a tad. Straight out the box, nothing done to it. I'll say box, it was a packet. After approximately 5 minutes, the front wick was slightly starved of METH'S, so the front wick, which is the one on the right here, that was slightly a slightly lower flame to the rest. It did almost go out and then kicked up again, but it was reasonably consistent. The middle wick was fine until about 9 minutes, and then that was getting starved a little of fuel. And I suppose understandably they being in order, the 2 wicks went out followed by the last one, and it was a total burn time with all wicks out at 12 minutes 40 seconds. So here's the period burner, or as far as I know it is anyway. Certainly looks the right sort of size and everything from the few pictures there are in the Mamod book. It was a mid-50s one though, but certainly looked the same size tank. As I say, it has been repainted. It was a case of with the wick material, measuring with my thumb the height of these above, including what's below, putting them in. Didn't put them in too firm, just nice. Got them in, trimmed them up a little bit. As I said before, I had to put a new seal on here. Got no fibre washers, and plus the Repro ones I've found for things like safety valves and that, I find them far too hard and don't seal. But O-ring on there does the job and stays in place, unlike the one on the MM1, which I said it's got a life of its own. 20 mils in for the test to more directly compare with the Repro. It does hold 34 mils. Now this one had a decent flame, but not too high. Photo coming shortly. You can compare that with the 2 photos. And more even burn, perhaps more controlled, probably just about right really as a burn. Unusually though, the centre one stopped first. That went out at an 11.5 minutes. Then the front at 11 minutes 50 seconds, and then the one nearest to tank lasted up to 14 minutes, but of course it was next to nothing by then, but a decent burn. And if you go on when the first one started to die and go out, it's within a sort of half a minute, maybe a little bit more, burn for the 2. The test with this period one, with a full tank capacity, 34 millilitres, totalled 17 minutes. Again, it goes without saying, I suppose, towards the end there was no use at all really, but I would suggest perhaps a good 14-15 minutes burn for that one before it gets too low to be of any decent use. What I would say, and I don't know, I haven't read the instructions because I've got none for the SE2. No box with it, so we'll have to try and find those. But I wouldn't like to run the SE2 with hot water in, then a full tank. It might be a bit too close to call then. If you're firing up from cold water, I don't think it'll be a problem. But time will tell. We'll check, see how much water's left when we get to that one. The next test was the perhaps more important test really out of all these burners, because the Repro's probably here, this one, the 3-wick one's probably not going to be used on anything at the moment, but a good spare. The original burner will be used with the SE2. The MM1, if I can get it to burn decently, will be going with the engine that was serviced in a couple of weeks' time, going back to its owner. So the one that's perhaps going to find more use, or the ones that are going to find more use, are these METH'S burners. These are both the same, so I'll put one to one side. There is a slight difference in the burn times, but as I said before, to replace the usual tray, open tray, solid fuel burner for a METH'S one in the SP2s. Now, as you can see, the METH'S burner is quite narrow compared to the tray, and obviously won't fit in as securely as the solid fuel tray does in its opening in the base of the engine. However, lengthwise it's quite a snug fit, so it is actually quite secure indeed. Not as secure as the solid fuel tray, but it's not going to fall out. It's not going to fall over like that. It will stay in place. It may rattle around a little bit with a bit of use, but in a newish engine or little used engine, I've tried these dry just to try the fit. They just fit in the opening of the firebox, and they fit quite snugly. So they're not really unsafe unless you do something you shouldn't really be doing with them. Having said that, I can't find them, so if you do fancy a burner like this, if you can find where they are, please let me know. I can't find them. I've had them probably 3 or 4 months, not got round to using them yet, because some of the models are in the queue waiting to be looked at, reviewed, the older ones serviced or whatever. So, taking the solid fuel tray, you'll all probably know this, but you know, it's been such a long time since I've used solid fuel in the larger burner tray. I've used it in the small one for the SP1, and may have to use it again because I can't get a decent METH'S burner for that either. So utilising the new round tablets you get, the wax type with all Mamods now, which of course being round are smaller, quite a bit smaller than the square type, and don't last as long. Having said that, I was quite surprised really. It was a decent burn from start to finish, and okay, like all of them, it was useless towards the end, but for the main part of the burn, quite good. Now, those of you that don't know, and probably that's not many of you probably all know, the wax type are waxed for a reason, so that when the water drops on them, any water drops on them, they don't spit like the old type did. And also, and being waxed, they start to light quite easy, certainly compared to the old type. Not as easy as METH'S of course, but not bad. Again, this was tested from when both were lit. Okay, it was quite a small flame till it spread out, and lasted quite a long time. I was quite pleased. Of course, the only trouble with this is, apart from the smell, which ain't so bad with these wax tablets, or it doesn't seem to be, from my memory, it's the mess that they make under the boilers, especially mixed with oil or water, and it gets quite crusty and gooey to start with, and crusty. So not too bad at all. The picture coming up shortly was taken at 4 minutes, so I'll let the fire get hold, if you like, and went out completely. You can see the remains there. Nearly 15.5 minutes, so a good use probably 12, maybe a little bit more. But although it doesn't say on the box anymore in the instructions, in theory, and if you're going to do this yourself, keep an eye on the water level. It should be 2 burner fills to 1 boiler fill. So that's 4 tablets in total to 1 boiler fill of water. But keep an eye on that, just in case that's not the case anymore. I should think it is. So we'll move that one out the way now, and we'll come on to these in a little bit more detail. These don't take a lot of METH'S, 15mm each, which is the same as the MM1 Repro. A damn sight easier to fill, just like the normal larger METH'S vaporising burners included in Mamod's up to what, mid-70s or just after. The thing with these though, very slow starters. Light's easy enough, no trouble at all there, but the flame is quite low. I've taken several pictures at different times during the burn. I'll label the pictures up, but the first photo was taken at 4 minutes, then at 7 minutes, and one at 16 minutes, and indeed the best part of the burn was approximately from 7 minutes to 16 minutes. Now, as you see in the picture, looking at the picture, the one on the left, that lasted 20 minutes. Again, no use at all really, the flame was almost out. And the one on the right lasted almost 22 minutes. Again, useless flame at that time, but a good burn. That said, because it has the potential to last that sort of time, keep an eye on your water level in the SP2s, or indeed an SP4. It shouldn't be any problem fitting one of these to those either. Keep an eye on your water level, experiment, and be very careful. You don't want to ruin your engine. Don't be afraid to pull out the burner and put the burner out. Just keep an eye on it. Hopefully there'll be enough water, but it's a bit of a close call and it's probably going to be 1 burner to 1 boiler with these, a 1-to-1. But they are slow to start. It does take a while for them to pick up a bit of flame, and the flame is it's okay. I think at its peak the solid fuel tray probably has the better flame, but of course doesn't last as long. The METH'S is, well, now I've found a new supplier, the METH'S is cheaper than the solid fuel. So they're quite nicely made, of fair weight, nicely made. They look like they've been milled out of solid brass, which can't be cheap. Can't see any brazing or soldering. No. Well, they might have been. If they have, it's a good finish. Of course, you've got your little handle on the end. So that's a possibility. We hope. We haven't tried them in the engines yet. For a replacement or a variation on a theme of burners for the SP2, SP4s. SP5s, as I said, not really long enough really, but we'll see what we can do with those. this is, as I said, the Repro MM1 burner. 14.5 quid plus a couple of quid post. When I got it, looked okay, except there was a fingerprint in the paint, which probably pointed to the fact that the paint wasn't very good, for whatever reason. Paint's no good, or preparation was no good, so the paint was soft. Anyway, as I said before, awkward to fill because of the small orifice. Big words now I'm using. As you can see, quite small. As I pointed out earlier, the hose I was using is quite large for this size, and it struggles to let the air out when you put METH'S in. I think I said before, the original, well, it looked like some sort of cotton wick, was in very tightly. So much so, I only got a couple of minutes burn, and it was only like a candle. Well, perhaps it'd be better than a candle, but that sort of size flame. I thought, well, that's no good. Anyway, I relit it, and it lasted about another minute or two, and I thought, that's rubbish. So I took it out, and it was well rammed in, that was. So I've still got some left of this fiberglass type stuff that came with this one, spares. Put it in, and no joy. There seems to be a thing with me, the SP1s and MM1 burners. I just can't get a decent flame. A normal, going on the SP1, which is the same engine, give or take, I can usually get a run of about 7 minutes, 6-7 minutes, with the original fuel in the solid fuel burner tray, and I was getting a decent burn with the Repro burner that I bought. I've cleaned it out, and it's still rubbish now. It really is bad. So I'm looking for another one of those. Anyway, so I put some more in, and it was, well, a waste of time, to be honest. Lasted about 3 minutes. Flame was perhaps a little better, but though it remained lit, it lasted, well, I'll get up at half an hour, because there was still fuel left, but the flame was a pointless flame, really. So I've had a lot of playing around with that. I took that wick out, I put the last bit of this stuff that I've got spare, I put that in, but not in so tight, and I lit it, and I got a decent flame about up here. You know, so about 3 inches from the top of the tube. But then I thought that was a bit too much, so I blew it out, trimmed it down a bit, and tested again, and again I got a decent flame, you know, about the same height. And I thought, well, I'll leave it at there, see how we go. And it died, and died, and died, until it was, you thought it was out, and then it'd pick up again, and have a decent flame, perhaps last half a minute, maybe a little bit more, and it died, and died, and died, and it kept doing that till there was very little in the tank. Looking at the way this one is made, the tube is slightly, the bottom of the tube won't be at the bottom of the tank, slightly, just ever so slightly higher, so there'll be it won't be even a spit's worth, but there will be a little bit left in the tank on that one. So I fiddled with the wick, trimmed a little bit more, pushed it down just a fraction more, not too much. Eventually, the thinking was that there's a slight blockage in the pipe, in the tube from the tank to the vertical tube that holds the wick. Don't know, as I say, this is all new to me, really. All my Mamods have been vaporisers or solid fuel, going back to when I was a kid to now, really. Oh, of course, gas. But I got my air tank, my air cylinder, and I thought, well, I might as well blow it through, see what happens, and it was an easy way to get the wick out, I know that. But I'll get it a blow through, the air comes through fine. I mean, I've gone through both ways, give it a really good blowout, so I should think that'll be enough for the METH'S to come through now. But I've got no wick material left. I've tried a couple of stopgap wick materials, rolled kitchen roll, quite tightly put in. It was okay, bit smaller flame, but of course not the proper stuff. And the other stuff I tried was, I think it's nylon string, and until it started to get a bit hot and started to melt, it did seem okay. So we'll have to wait to get some more wick material for that one. So we'll do a bit of an update on that one later on. Whilst I'm at it, folks, those of you who are watching this, if anybody's got a spare original or another repro MM1 1 wick burner that I can borrow or buy, just so I can compare like for like, make sure it's not me, that would be great. Even though I haven't tested this, of course, as I said, because I've got no more decent wick material, I've blowed it out, but it might be fine now, who knows. But I'm running a bit short of time if I'm going to get the engine back to the chap with a decent burner running, otherwise I'll have to wait for the burner. So that would be appreciated. But I'll have to update you on this one specifically at a later date. So there we go, folks, all the burners we've been playing around this afternoon, and I've been at it hours, mainly thanks to Mr. MM1 not playing ball. But as I said earlier, folks, this information, take it for what it's worth, if anything, and if you do decide to use, I don't know, say one of these, for example, in a SP2, again for example, like I intend to do shortly, you do so at your own risk. You are going away from the spec of the model if it's, say, a brand new SP2, so don't blame the manufacturer if it cocks up, and that goes for any manufacturer, not just Mamod. If you're going off spec, you know what I'm saying is, folks, just be careful out there, and hopefully you'll have many more decent steaming sessions, because it's all good fun, even if it's sometimes a little frustrating. But there you go, folks, so watch yourselves, and I'll see you again.